of our local building authority. So we'll proceed. Oh, I see a flag inbound as we speak. We can do normal procedure, it looks like. Here it comes. I think it's left side, right? This right side of the. We always turn this way for the U.S. Post colors. Hopefully that will stay up there, yeah. Well, we don't pledge allegiance to that one anyway. All right. To do some repair work on that one. Okay. We'll call the meeting of the City Council to order. As always, let's rise and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome to City Hall West, or Holladay and Mill Creek. That sounds like a Marilyn Monroe movie title. And let's proceed with item number 3, public comment. If you wish to address the council, we invite you to do so. Just come up to the podium, state your name and address. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes if you can, or less. Oh, no, this is a regular city council meeting. And then I think we are doing LBA first. I thought we'd just do like through number 4 and then go to LBA. But LBA? Okay, so let's do LBA then, which is also public comment. Okay, so the LBA is our local building authority, and the LBA, just like our RDA board, consists of the city council. The LBA board's mandate is to manage the building authority for the project that's going on up at our other city hall. But for this meeting as well, we have public comment. You can make them now, or this meeting should be pretty quick. If you'd rather have your public comment and be part of regular city council meeting, that'll be probably in about 4 minutes. So that said, for the local building authority meeting, public comment is open. Are there any who wish to address the local building authority? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and move to item number 3 of the LBA agenda, public hearing on the fiscal year 2025-26 budget amendments. So we'll open the public hearing on the budget amendments. Are there any here to address the council with regard to the budget amendments for the local building authority? Shocking. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on the LBA budget amendments and move to item number 4, resolution adopting the budget amendments. Is there any discussion, or Christian, did you need to address that?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a very straightforward amendment. It is just recognizing the fact that the 2025 LBA budget, we issued 2025 bonds for the project, and this is just us recognizing the transfer in from the general fund and then also the expense of the debt service for interest for that 2025 bond. The 2026 debt service payment will be roughly double this, maybe a little more, but this is just for a portion of the year that we had the bond for 2026.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Otherwise, I'm happy to take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, motion that we approve. Can you pull that up, Stephanie, so we can get the number on that? LBA resolution 2026-01.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's go to a roll call vote with member, of course, whatever director, right, or trustee. Okay, trustee Sunball?
Yes.
And trustee Durham?
Yes.
And trustee Bradley?
Yes.
And trustee Quinn?
Yes.
Trustee Gray?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Thank you. All right, item number 5, regarding the minutes of the LBA for September 8th and October 2nd and November 6th. Happy to take a motion.
Mayor, I approve. I move for the approval of the minutes of September 18th, October 2nd, and November 6th of 2025.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. The minutes are approved, and I'll need a motion to adjourn and then also to reconvene in a city council meeting.
So moved. You got it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned and reconvened in a city council meeting. And now what you've been waiting for, I think, perhaps, we'll go to item number 3, which is public comment. Please, if you wish to make a comment to the council, please come to the podium with your name and address and let us know what's on your mind. Oh yes, Trudy is here from the library. Please, show us how it's done.
I'm Trudy from the library. I just wanted to let you know the tax season's over. Yay! And we made just short of 900 appointments for people to have help with their taxes at the library. So that was awesome.
Wow.
Tomorrow we will have, in conjunction with America 250 celebrations, we're going to be doing oral history. So we'll have our sound studio set up. People can come in with their own memory device, like a thumb drive, and we'll have staff there and available to help them record their own oral history if they would like to. And if tomorrow doesn't work for people, then just make an appointment with a librarian and we'll be happy to help. On the 29th of April, we're going to have an all abilities activity at 10:30 in the morning. There will be crafts and bingo for adults and teens with intellectual disabilities. And then on May 1st, at 10:15, there's going to be a Dia de los Niños y Libros face painting, treats, crafts, lots of fun. And then on Monday, May 4th, from 3 to 5, will be Maker Monday, and you can come in and make your own monster bookmark in our Create space. And that's what's going on at the library right now. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, public comment remains open for any who wish to address the council.
Good evening.
Hi.
Tom Charlo, 3930 South, 3030 East. We spoke with you, I think, a couple months ago about the difficulty we had with the previous season's fireworks that were exploding all over our cul-de-sac with the high winds that we were experiencing. It was um, it was not a fun night. I realized at the time, and we've been told since, there's things that we could have done to possibly prevent it, like stand there with a sprinkler pointed at the fireworks. But we just want to make it very clear that these fireworks that have been legal for, I guess, 5 years or so now, are just have no place in our neighborhoods. They create circumstances where one neighbor fears for their house and the other neighbor thinks it's a great thing. As we mentioned before, we had uh, hundreds of thousands of sparks that you could hear landing on our roof, against our windows. We had high winds that night, which made it way more inappropriate than it already was. We just want to continue to state our feelings about this. Frankly, I think if the people that made those fireworks weren't maybe involved in um, trying to have more business with our neighbors, you see these huge tents set up for the whole month of July, if not more, selling these. So what I will say about fireworks, one more thing though, is that the fireworks that we did have before these nearly professional level fireworks were put upon us by our legislature, I believe. The fireworks that we had before that were fairly benign. The little kids, they'd enjoy lighting them off, and they would go up maybe 6 to 10 feet, and that's it. The ones that we see now are fully in the sky, um, um, and they're just very inappropriate in neighborhoods, especially with the drought we're experiencing, with um, the fire that took place around July 4th in Mill Creek, which was tragic for so many people. Um, anyway, thank you very much. We appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Public comment remains open. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment and proceed to item number 4 regarding the parking agreement adjacent to Spring Lane. Did we have any staff report or any other comments or
We don't have a staff report. If you have questions, though, we'd be happy to answer them.
I know that we've had discussions about this. Is the parking agreement between the LDS Church adjacent to Spring Lane and our opportunity to continue that agreement that the Granite School District had with that church building. That agreement is now being extended to the city, as the city has now acquired that property, of course, for the development of the park. There was an issue that I presume was resolved adequately with regard to it was a liability or an indemnification that they was overstepped a bit, and but we've got that resolved apparently. Okay. I don't have any further questions. Anyone else have any questions or concerns? Okay. Otherwise, I'm happy to take a motion.
Stephanie, can we go back and get that number, Mr. Mayor? Oh, okay. Mr. Mayor, motion that we approve resolution 2026-10.
Second.
Okay. Is that adequate? Just with the number? Okay. Very good. Okay. Thanks very much, Councilmember Gray.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Bradley.
Yes.
Councilmember Durham.
Yes.
And Councilmember Sunball.
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Thank you. Okay, let's proceed to city manager report. Thanks.
much longer walk to get over here than it is in our regular building. Uh, Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have actually mainly good news to share tonight. First, I want to alert all of you to a conversation that several staff and I had this afternoon with representatives from UDOT, who told us that we have been prioritized. Our trail project along 215 from 23rd East to Highland Drive has been prioritized as part of the Utah Trail Network uh, for the next state fiscal year. So for fiscal year 26-27, that will be submitted as a recommendation from the staff level to the Transportation Commission, and we're looking for approval of that funding recommendation by the end of June. If that recommendation is successful, design could start as early as this summer on that section of trail. The funding that would support that project is a little different. You may recall that we applied unsuccessfully for funding for that same stretch through WFRC. That section would have that opportunity would have required a match on the city's part. This funding source would require no match. There are some project expenses that they may consider a betterment that we may wish to provide ourselves, but that will all be sorted out in the design process. Since that's one of our trail priorities, that seems like really good news, and we'll keep you posted on that process as it works its way through the Transportation Commission, and then as we hopefully can get started later this summer.
And you said from Highland Drive to 2300. We're doing that
Yes.
section first. Okay.
Yep, that's the section that they have prioritized, honestly, based on our application to WFRC.
And this is, does this tie into the potential design of the path at the bottom on the Highland Drive? Or am I thinking of a different?
It is a different one. This is along 215. Eventually, would like that to tie to Knutson Park on the east and Big Cottonwood Trail, and then eventually tie into a trail network that would provide access to Wheeler Farm, and also Cottonwood Heights is proposing a section of trail that would cross 215 and then go into their community as well.
Thanks.
So that is exciting news. Wanted to make the council aware that Holly and John Tierlink and I had a really good meeting with staff representatives from Senator Curtis's office a few weeks ago to lay the groundwork as we apply for additional potential federal funding for Highland Drive. We'll see how that goes. Speaking of federal funding, as you probably all know, our earmark is still being held, and we'll see where that ends up. I am no longer optimistic about it as a source of funding for our project, but we'll see. Last night we had what I would characterize as a really successful open house for the Spring Lane project. We had a great turnout, I would say in excess of 40-ish people. Lots of passionate ideas, divergent positions, but lots of really great energy from the crowd. And you'll have an opportunity to talk about the feedback that they provided and then some further direction next week. Just a couple of leftover items from the legislature having to do with state holidays. One thing that I had missed in the session is that the legislature did approve the alignment of Juneteenth with the federal holiday. So going forward, it will always be on June 19th. And our employee manual reflects we'll do whatever the state does. So no change there. The state also approved an additional holiday for state employees for Good Friday, although it looks like it will only be a half-day holiday. I want to find out a little bit more about what the state is recommending there, and then bring that to you as an issue for your consideration, whether you want to align our employee handbook with that guidance or not. That'll be a decision for you. And then finally, I just wanted to recognize we're here in this new building. Of a very successful move, and I want to publicly thank everyone who helped make that possible. All of our staff really contributed, but I want to highlight a couple of folks, especially we had a move team that was led by Joe Bolton. He really did a heavy lift. Stephanie Carlson coordinated utilities, tech, internet service, and appreciate the effort that they did. Lena, John, Christian, and Holly. I'm not forgetting anyone. That's the tube, right? Oh, and me. We were the group that coordinated that. And on the court side, both Kaylin Olson and Judge Chin were here on Thursday, doing a lot of packing and moving as well. So appreciate everyone really coming together to make this happen, and we're happy to be here and can't wait to go home. Any questions for me?
Well, I just echo what you said. I mean, I witnessed a fair amount of this moving, and it really was a tremendous project, and with a lot of work. And the fact that you were loading up the last truck Friday night at 6 o'clock ish up there, and to see the state that we are in now, to have our first council meeting so quickly after the beginning of that move. I mean, it's 1 week, and this is the result of 1 week in terms of the move. But yeah, tremendous effort. I thought Joe and the team really, well, the proof is that we're here and having a council meeting, and we're in a great facility, and we got a great deal. So kudos to you and the staff.
Great, thanks.
Okay, let's proceed with council reports. How about down at this end, Councilmember Gray?
This morning, I had the opportunity to visit with the Bonneville Junior High Community Council. As a follow-up from their meeting before, there's real concern at Bonneville. The community council is tasked with approving the safe walking route, and one of the safe walking routes for Bonneville says that it's safe for students unsupervised to cross the intersection of 5600 South and Van Winkle, which is a 5-lane road where cars are going, limited at 50 miles an hour. They're often going more than that. You have a lot of very young drivers getting into Cottonwood High School. Something that I was made aware of in this meeting is that there are 270 students that attend Bonneville that live on the other side of that intersection. So the community council did not approve the safe walking route. Not that that really has any long-term consequences, but they're really looking at what we can do to make that route safer for students, and reduce the congestion of driving in the neighborhood if we can make it more safe, because most parents end up just driving their kids. So one of the things that they're requesting from Holladay City is to work with Murray City and get some crossing guards there. I mean, they would love an elevated footpath, and I thought that was a little too heavy of a lift. But I think looking at getting crossing guards where we split the costs with Murray City is something that I think we could really look into. It really is not a safe intersection for these kids for all of the reasons that I mentioned. So that's something that I would love it if that we could look into as a city, and obviously work with Murray City to split the costs on that.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, Councilmember Bradley.
I don't have anything tonight.
Councilmember Durham.
Just a reminder about our Arbor Day event on a week from Friday at Wasatch Waldorf School. That's all.
Councilmember Sunderland.
I don't have anything.
Okay. I'll have one thing. I'll defer to Councilmember Gray if you wanted to chat about Chief Whittison at the HOA.
Oh, yes. Um, so Chief Woodson and I had the opportunity to speak at the Canyon Cove HOA about the issues with Holladay City directly relating to that particular neighborhood. And I talked a lot about Gina's excellent work and ongoing work with UDOT and all other parties in trying to come to a more permanent resolution for the care of the park and ride that has deteriorated. And they were very grateful for that, and also for our help in dealing with a lot of the dust that they were seeing from the construction site blowing directly into their neighborhood. Chief Wilson then also talked about the WUI map and how that affects their neighborhood. He was very good at addressing their concerns and kind of helping them understand what it means and what it doesn't mean as far as effects for them. So appreciate his efforts. Appreciate Captain for setting that up, and I think it was a good event.
Great. Okay, and all my items have already been talked about, so I have nothing beyond that. So I'll go ahead and take a motion to recess and reconvene in a work meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are in a work meeting. Do you want us to stay in the seats we're in, or are we moving seats, or stay right? Okay, very good. All right, first item up. Is it Captain Dan? Are you doing this next part? Okay, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thanks for having me for a little UFA 101. So this is the first time I've done this one, so we'll see how it goes, and hopefully it's not too boring. So we'll start. Do we have the slides up here? I guess we'll give it a second. I sent it to you in an email. Oh, there it is. Okay. We'll start there. So just as the summary, we'll go to that second slide. So Unified Fire Authority, we're the state's largest fire department with almost 700 personnel. We have 26 stations ranging all the way from Immigration Canyon all the way down to Eagle Mountain. Eagle Mountain's the lone city that we serve in Utah County. The city of Holladay is, to be a member of UFA, you can either be a direct member, which the city of Holladay is, along with Riverton, Cottonwood Heights, and Harriman, or you can be a member of the Unified Fire Service Area, or UFSA, which is a taxing entity, and we'll kind of go into that a little bit later on. The governance is made up of a board of 17, which is our 15 municipalities, and then the Salt Lake County has 2 members, where Mayor Fotheringham serves as the chair of the board. And then, of course, you have your Station 104, and we'll kind of go over that, which delivers your response, but then it also benefits from being from a regional infrastructure of many specialties that we have, from our wildland program to heavy rescue to hazmat and other things that the benefits of a large organization has. So that's the summary, and then we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is kind of the history of UFA and kind of how we got to where we are from the city of Holladay being a customer to a co-owner. So traditionally, most cities got their fire protection from Salt Lake County Fire Department, and then as cities incorporated, they would contract with the Salt Lake County Fire Department, but they were kind of a customer with no say. So in 2004, Unified Fire Authority was introduced, and that way everybody has a say. Right now, everybody has someone on the board, and everybody has a little bit of more buy-in rather than just being a customer with no say. And then in 2019, an interlocal agreement was refined to clarify member roles and governance. And then Holladay solidified his position as direct member and co-owner with a voting seat on the board of directors, ensuring direct oversight and strategic control over fire and EMS services. So, and that was in 2019 for that, and that's a 50-year interlocal agreement. Next slide. So this is just kind of a slide right here that shows we have the one seat, and that's Mayor Fotheringham at this time. So the primary decision making is one vote. Everybody gets a vote. But for financial, for the tentative budget, the final budget, and budget amendments, if any two board members of different entities, so it can't just be the two Salt Lake County ones, they can invoke a weighted vote. And the way the weighted vote is calculated is a combination of the budget and population. I would like to point out that that's never been invoked. So as long as Unified Fire Authority's been around, it has never been invoked, the weighted vote. The next slide does kind of show where Holladay ranks in the weighted voting. So right there, you can see Holladay is 6.5% of the population and 4.33% of member fees. So they would have a 5.43% if anybody did invoke the weighted voting. So right here, so there's among the Unified Fire Authority board, there's 3 board subcommittees of the Finance Committee, the Governance Committee, and the Benefits and Comp Committee. So, and I know there's been some changes, but Mayor Fotheringham, you're on the Benefits and Comp and Finance both, correct? Right. So there has been some changes with the election. So the Finance Committee, the mandate is, they conduct granular line by line reviews of the proposed budget. They ensure fiscal transparency. And I don't know if anybody has ever seen our budget book, but it is a phone book, and it literally has every dollar, where everything goes, and where it's spent. And we'll kind of go into the budget a little bit more later on. But Unified Fire Authority and our CFO Tony Health, they've won awards for this budget book and the transparency. So it's a boring read. So if you ever wanted to look at it, it's online, or I can get you a physical copy. But it's pretty impressive. The Governance Committee, the mandate is to manage the legal and structure framework of the agency. And then, of course, the benefits and compensation, they balance fiscal responsibility with the workforce retention. And so those 3 subcommittees, they make their recommendations to the UFA board. And I don't think it's ever happened where, as they're made up of board members, usually their recommendations are usually always ratified, because they do all the work and they do all the heavy lifting on those subcommittees before it goes to the UFA board. Here is our organizational structure. You can see at the top, we have the board, and then the fire chief and the chief legal officer answers to the board. I won't go through every single one of these things, but that's our organizational structure for UFA. And so here we'll go into it. So there's 2 more, like I said. So Holladay, Cottonwood Heights, Riverton, and Harriman are direct members, and everybody else is a UFSA member. So these are the major differences. So as a UFSA member, a separate legal entity that's special service area acting as a taxing district, whereas Holladay is a contracting entity maintaining total municipal separation from the taxing district. So Holladay pays UFA with a single a member fee from the general fund, where the funding mechanism of UFSA is they levy property taxes on residents to fund the operations. And then the other big difference is asset ownership. So UFSA owns the fire stations and they maintain the fire stations, where Holladay owns their fire station and they maintain their fire station. And we can get into what's better or what's worse or what's different sometimes, but for Holladay, I think it definitely does make sense. If you knew you had 3 more fire stations to build in the future, maybe you look at UFSA, because then you could split that cost. But Holladays, and we'll get into that in the future too, where Station 104 is located and where our neighboring stations are located, it's pretty covered for having one station. It's a good idea. And then you also are already 4-handed staffed, so you can't really increase staffing very much, and that's your other big cost, where you don't have to save. You would save, say, if you're Eagle Mountain, they have 3 stations. They're projected to build 2 more, and there's gonna be a lot of costs coming up. So it makes more sense for someone like that to be a member of UFSA and split that cost versus Holladay or Riverton or some of these places that are already built out. It's kind of you get the same exact service though. That's the big thing, and you have total control over your taxes. So those are the big benefits. Is there any questions about that? That's a big point, and I don't want to just gloss over it.
It's a big difference for Holladay, because we're essentially charged. There are a couple of variables, but the primary variable is our call volume, right? How the calls that come out of the first serve station and such. So one of the decisions we have is 3-man crews versus 4-man crews. We wanted to go the best, which is a 4-man crew, which makes the most sense. That is a variable though that we could decide. But in terms of our we're not pooled with other communities. We're we're charged for our call volume that happens in Holladay. And of course, we did pay for our own fire station. That's another thing that UFSA does. They're essentially assessing all the UFSA members as if they're one big city in a shared pool for their station costs and their operating costs. But relative to the other cities, Holladay is a low call volume relative to our tax base. And so as a result, we're getting a screaming deal because we a same service provider that gives the same great service to everybody, but the cost allocation metric is really favorable for us. So it's a great deal. Go ahead.
And we'll go over that, the call volume and things about in a little later on. But you know, just as another example, say last year Kearns opened another fire station, and so when Kearns opened another fire station, they're a member of UFSA. UFSA all had to vote and share that cost. Where Holladay being a direct member, it didn't affect Holladay to open a fire station elsewhere. So, okay, next slide. So this is kind of how our member fee system works. So, and I'll get into this more. This is the overview, but I'll get in the nuts and bolts in just a little bit. But it takes your first two areas. So 104, and you can kind of, it's not an exact circle, but you kind of put an area around 104 and the calls that are run in Holladay, and you get charged for that. And there's kind of a give and take between 112, which is up in Olympus Cove, and 116, which is the one up on Wasatch, and 110, which is one in Cottonwood Heights. So there's a give and take between 104 and then the neighboring cities, and we capture all that and charge accordingly. And every year there's, I think for a couple of years it seemed like the call volume there, people were coming into Holladay a little bit more, and then this year Holladay went out a little bit more, so it went down just a little bit. It's kind of minuscule as far as in the grand scheme of things, but we do capture all of that. So the cost is based on the geographical zone, and I have a map of that and we'll show. And then you have your loaded crew costs, which we'll get into that, which is how much it costs. We charge either to have a three-handed engine or a four-handed engine. And for those that have been to fire school, the big, huge difference. And as a firefighter, it is a huge benefit to be on a four-handed apparatus versus a three-handed apparatus for almost every call. So that's one reason that it's great. It is just firefighters love it. A lot of people don't even like to work on three-handed apparatus. And then you'll have your overhead, which we'll go over, and then the offsets, which can be the revenues, which is ambulance revenue and things like that. But we'll get all into that total member fee number more in just a little bit. Next slide. Oh, okay, we are on the next slide. So the budget is prepared in accordance with the Uniform Fiscal Procedures Act for cities. So UFA maintains a fund balance at or above state required minimums, and they target 8.5% to provide a fiscal buffer for emergency contingencies. And there's constant scrutiny, always looking at the fund balance. And then one of the benefits of the economies of scale is the support services. Historically, they represent 14 to 16% of the budget, which is really good as far as the overhead. So the major cost of the UFA general fund is obviously personnel and overtime. That's always the number one. But what you get from that, so we maintain a hard floor of daily staffing across all our 26 stations. So in any business, staffing is always number one. But Station 104 will have your 4 people on your engine and 2 people on your ambulance. Doesn't matter. They can be 30 sick calls. We can have people deployed to a hurricane, but we have a minimum staffing, which is what it is. So Station 104 is always staffed, but that's a benefit because in some smaller departments, sometimes it's hard to eat up sick calls or some of these other things. But that's the one thing that we have is we have a hard minimum staffing. And there has been times when UFA in a whole, every once in a while that we go down, but Holladay is way down that list because they're pretty busy. So they like to draw down on a smaller one, but that only happens a handful of times a year. And sometimes, for instance, if we have people that can sign up for overtime, and that's usually how we fill vacancies, but we also have something called mandatory staffing. So it's just the unfortunate, I believe, I don't know if UPD has anything like this, where some days you may think you're going home, but guess what? You're not going home. You've been mandatory staff for that day. And it's just the nature of the work, and everybody understands it. So that is one way we keep the minimum staffing, which it could be hard, like I said, in a smaller department. and then healthcare costs and is a major driver, and then the capital outlay, which we'll get into a little bit later on too, which is our capital plan. Um, you don't get stuck. Well, actually, the next slide I'll kind of explain it a little bit. So we have a capital plan where we replace everything of value in a predetermined amount of time. For instance, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but we buy every 9 years we'll buy, or every 3 years we'll buy 5 fire engines, and so there's a strict rotation, right? So as you can see, I don't know if you noticed, we went on it before, but for Councilmember Sunwall and Councilmember Bradley, we just got a new fire engine this last year, and so the good thing about it is that Holladay doesn't have to pony up $1 million to get a fire engine, which is the cost of a fire engine nowadays. You kind of pay into this capital outlay fund every year, which makes the cost predictable. And then during the life cycle, about 10 to 12 years, you'll get a new fire engine. So we do that with everything from our ambulances to our brush trucks to our radios to our SCBAs, which are our breathing apparatus. They're all on timelines, and so it makes things predictable in cost. I'll say a little story. I think it was in 2007 or kind of right when I got hired, we bought, I think, 16 fire engines at once. And it was great, right? Everybody's like, oh, we have brand new fire engines. And well, they all started breaking down at the same time, and they all came off warranty at the same time. So it was a nightmare to predict costs, and no one knew. And it was a huge challenge. So now, every 3 years, we put an order in, and then and the other thing is, oh, we didn't like this on this last batch, we can change this on this fire engine, or little tiny changes. It's definitely made a more predictable for cost. That's the biggest thing, more predictable, and it keeps us on a good rotation for replacing these apparatus. Okay, and here is your station 104. So it's staffed, like I said, it's staffed 24/7, 4-person fire engine and a 2-person ambulance. And then it's perfectly placed, and we'll go into that in a little bit. On a side note, people love working there. It's a beautiful fire station, and the citizens treat everybody great here. The one drawback is that there's a lot of night calls in Holladay. I don't know if that's the same thing with the police. Seems to be a lot of night calls, which as firefighters we hate that, but it is what it is, right? But it's a beautiful station. People love working there, and it's it's great. It's one of the places people like to work. So, and then for the strategic outlook, so this is our mission statement: to save lives, protect property, and strengthen community relationship with professionalism, courage, and dedication. And then Holladay retains total municipal autonomy and local property tax control, but you gain the protection from Utah's largest and specialized fire agency. So now we're going to get into some of the nuts and bolts of the budget. Does anybody have any questions over the governance or any of the things that I just covered? Okay. So this is the budget that was passed for fiscal year 25-26, and we'll kind of just go over it a little bit line by line. Up at the top are some of the revenues. So they always budget ambulance revenue, and just for a gee whiz. So for the states, that's the cost for ambulance rides. So we always have people that come in and say, oh, this was this much, and it is expensive. I'm not there's no way around that, but the state is who determines ambulance costs, just for people to know. So you have your ambulance revenue, which we budgeted low. URS actually went down, and then stress test cuts. So Chief Burchett every year, I cannot for the life of me remember a famous CEO does this, but every year he goes through just his different divisions, from fire training to operations to medical training to fire prevention to logistics, and he says, give me a budget where you cut 10%. Like, if you had to do it, give me a budget that you cut 10%. And they look at it and they decide what they can live with and what they can't. But that's an exercise that he does every year, which is he makes them each division go through a stress test, and then interest. So last year we got a COLA of a 3.6% for all employees, a market adjustment for sworn and civilian. So they look at every rank and see where we are in the market, from battalion chief to captain to paramedic to engineer. And then they usually do about half to a third of the civilian employees every year with a look at their market. Health insurance, we had a 7.5% renewal rate, and hoping for something similar to that this year, but we'll see. new ambulance again. So a new ambulance started in January of 2025. So just for clarification, so Holiday paid how we bill is either through a 3 or 4 handed engine, and then ambulances go into a regional service delivery, which we'll kind of show you. So for instance, last year the city of Holladay had a part-time ambulance, which was um, part-time employees on an ambulance who they were staffed 6 days a week. I believe it was from 9 to 9. And then through the call volume and just how they looked at it through data, they flip-flopped that part-time ambulance with the full-time ambulance that was actually right up the street here at Station 106 because that would better serve everybody. But because that moved and that's part of the regional service delivery, there was no fiscal changing between Mill Creek and Holiday, even though you switched to part-time full-time ambulance. So the ambulance service is just built in. Does that make sense? So even though there was a new ambulance that was actually put in, I believe in Kearns. That's why that's on there for everybody. Same thing with the battalion chief. We added a fourth battalion chief. Battalion chief serves around. It used to be 7 to 8 stations. Now they serve 5 to 6, which is much more manageable. And then I won't go over the rest, but even the smallest minuscule budget impacts are kind of noticed right here. I will say the capital fund. Oh, can you go back one more time? So the capital fund transfer. So that was kind of a big one. I will point on that is that things are just getting much more expensive. So when we go to, I'll show you one of our capital funds or our capital leases or one of our 9-year leases where we buy the five fire engines, all that. It's kind of like a down payment to lessen the impact because I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's actually been national news where they've actually these fire apparatus manufacturers have actually had to appear in front of Congress because the prices have skyrocketed so much, like so now, they're sitting at $1 million. I feel like 5 years ago they were 700,000, right? So that they're going up. It used to be we used to be able to order a fire engine and we get it in a year. Now we're looking at 3-4 years. So it's actually been. I mean, maybe it's just national news to me because that's what I follow. But they've actually had to bring the manufacturers in front of Congress and they've been kind of grilled about this. So that's what that one is. And I just want to point to that because I was over $1 million. Okay, so here's the service demand, and this is kind of how things are billed a little bit. So if you look at the top, so Holiday, what we do is we take a 3-year, we combine 3 years. So it's not just if you happen to have 1 year where call volume goes up in an area, it's not going to change the funding very much. So we take a 3-year rolling call count right here. And so if you see, I'll kind of go. So if you look at 104 and you look over, they ran 5,000 incidents between 2022 and 2024 in their own city or in Holiday, and UFSA ran, which is 112, which is Olympus Cove, which is 106 right here in Mill Creek. 116 is actually not that actually down there, but UFSA, so which is really 112 and 106, they ran 32% of Holiday's calls. And so then they get down to the 100%. But then if you look down, Holladay ran 684 calls in Cottonwood Heights area, and they also ran 654 calls in 112 UFSA, and then they ran 282 calls in 116's area. And so you take that and they kind of calculate a give and take on what calls go where, and then that's how they come up with the billing. So which is pretty good because that way, if let's say that Holladay was going into 110's area all the time, just all the time, then at least that would be captured fiscally rather than we're just giving it. Now, if it's the fortunate thing for Holladay is that they're surrounded by UFSA in some areas where it's not shared fiscally. For instance, say Magna, which is in UFA, and then West Valley. If West Valley was coming in all the time, more if they say that hey, we're coming into Magna way too much, then it becomes more of a chief to chief thing rather than we can't just figure it out fiscally. It actually becomes something they have to work out and like, how are we going to do this? So Holladay is right smack in the middle, and we'll actually show on the next slide and how lucky it is. So if you can see where station 104 is, right in the smack in the middle, and the weird shape that's around it, not the green, but just that is what's called 104's first in. So any call in that area is considered 104 is called and for how it's billed. Now, if you look at that little chunk on the northeast side, 112 actually owns that chunk of Holladay. So if any call comes in there, 112 goes first because they're closer, right? So, and then 110 owns that little chunk to the south, and then 116 owns that little chunk, the little boot there on the southeast. And so the good thing about that is that Holladay it pays for one station, but they have 4 stations that own a part of it, which is not always the case. So if they were owned their own fire department, they might own all of it, right? So it's very lucky that they are right smack in the middle and they're surrounded by other members of the UFA that own part of it, and it's best for service delivery. Okay, next slide. This kind of explains it a little bit more. So if you just look at the Holladay section, so number of stations that own a first due area. So 4 stations own a first due area in Holladay, which is, like I said, if a call goes in there, that station goes to it. Now, if you look at the other ones, for instance, Harriman, they have 3 in the first due, but they pay for 2 of them. Riverton, they have 3, they pay for 3 of them. And then Cottonwood Heights, they have 3, but they pay for 2 of them. So Holladay gets the best bang for the buck strictly from geographical standpoint. They pay for 1, and then they have 4 that own first in. And so the proportion of the stations, so Holladay, because those other stations own a chunk of Holladay, proportionally, you pay for 1.04 stations total. And then the percentage member fee, the member fee for the fiscal year 25-26, the percentage increase from the year before, and then the actual dollar amount cost increase. Is that it's kind of confusing, so maybe it's not. But does anybody have any questions on kind of how that works?
Good.
Yeah, I mean, basically it's call volume. We pay for our own station,
Yeah.
and that covers the bulk of it, but you provide service based on what's the best way to get there. You're providing coverage, and our cost share is based primarily on our activity, and we're not pooled with anyone else. But we
Right.
get service delivery from a pooled service, but
Right.
we just pay for what's ours,
Yeah.
regardless of where it comes from.
Yep. So you pay for the crew of 104, and if they were going out way more, then it would be captured. We capture the call volume, which is great. So you pay for what you pay for what you get, which I think is great. Okay, go to the next slide. So here's just another way. This is the exactly how the member fee is. And so if you look at it's pretty small, you look at 104. So the first part is the engine of the truck. So you can see there's 2 different numbers. So you can only either get a 3 or 4-handed apparatus. Almost all of them are 4-handed apparatus. And then you get the service delivery. The service delivery is your ambulance service. It's your battalion chiefs. It's your heavy rescue and your hazmat. Then you have your support, which is your administrative support. So that'd be logistics. It'll be HR. It'll be our legal department, things like that, the administrative side. And then you have your capital fund, which we'll go again, and that's how we buy all our stuff. And so that, even though we might get 5 new fire engines in a year, that is not going to go like this, which is the whole plan, is to keep a predictable budget. And then you can kind of go over, and then it just adds up. So it just over here it'll show again. It has Cottonwood Heights, Holladay, Harriman, Riverton, and then UFSA, and then it'll add up everything to 100%. It's just another way of showing. It's more detailed than the view of the previous slide. Any questions on that? Okay. Right here. So, and again, these are some of the things you get from the member fee. So operations, that's the people on the fire engines and the people that work. That's obviously the biggest expense. Special operations, those are hazardous materials and our heavy rescue response. Camp Williams, this is actually great. So we provide, if anybody remembers it's the machine gun fire of 2010. You remember when that came over? So traditionally, Camp Williams had their own fire department or their own fire protection. After that, they got rid of them and they got with UFA, and so UFA has been providing fire service ever since to Camp Williams. It's basically a wildland firefighter crew, and that's their job is to protect Camp Williams. But the great thing about it is if there's nothing going on at Camp Williams and say wildland fire breaks out in Holladay, we can actually call them out and they can actually come out and do initial attack and things like that for us, which is great, which doesn't cost anything. Then you have fire prevention. So if you look over here to the Holladay, you pay $66,000, but you have your own area fire marshal, which is great, along with Chief Wade Watkins, who you'll probably see, and and I'll just say this about fireworks. So you met with Chief Watkins, correct? So I actually had a meeting with him yesterday about fireworks and about weather because everybody's worried about that. And as it gets closer, because it's too late to predict, he is going to come in and give a presentation and because it's up to the council and everybody, he'll come in and give updated information on fuel load or moisture in fuels and things like that for you to make a decision. But that's another thing you get from our fire prevention. You get a fire marshal, and there's fire training, EMS, special enforcement, which is our bomb and arson. We have our dogs and our arson investigators, urban search and rescue. So Unified Fire Authority is the sponsoring agency for Utah Task Force 1, which is one of 28 FEMA search and rescue teams, which is made up of firefighters and civilians all around Salt Lake County and even further. But it's funded by FEMA, and then but Unified Fire Authority is the sponsoring agency, so they're actually located out in our logistics building in West Jordan. And then you have our wildland division, which if you look over, Holladay's portion is 17,878. And what that is we have a whole wildland division with hand crews, well, 10-person hand crews. They also have 3 fire engines that go out, and generally we go out and they deploy to different fires around the country. But when they're in house, they're at our beck and call. So if they're in town, we can call them. And we also have a fuels crew under the wildland, which can come and they'll do mitigation work for Holladay. And so you'll be getting an email from me, and we're looking for mitigation work in Holladay for they can go and do some things, and with the priority being city property. But you'll get an email from me about that. And then emergency management, and you can see there's actually a refund in emergency management. So it's Salt Lake County Emergency Management, but because they're located in UFA headquarters, we get a little bit of a refund for that because we handle their payroll and they were RHR and things like that. And then there's finance, admin, information outreach, human resources, logistics, and then the capital fund transfer. And that gives you the total cost. So you can see Holladay, 3.198 million. And then, yeah, okay. Next slide. So here's just an example of, so Unified UFA, we have 3 9-month, they call them leases or loans that we are
9-year.
9-year, thank you. 9-year. So when one falls off, another one comes on. When one falls off, another comes on. And here's just an example of one of them. So type 1 fire engines, 5 of them, that's like the fire engine here in Holladay. That's the tip. When you think of a fire engine, that's what it is. It's a type 1 fire engine. A type 1.3 engine is kind of it's got the capabilities of a type 1 fire engine, but it's kind of has some wildland abilities at the same time. It can do both, but in a municipal area, like we just have them in a couple places. Harriman has one. Our Canyon station has them because they're more likely to have a house fire or a wildland fire than a place like Holladay. And then you have a tractor drawn aerial apparatus. We call them tillers. So it's the ladder truck. The guy drives in the back or the girl drives in the back. You've seen those driving around. 5 ambulances, 1 heavy rescue apparatus, 3 mechanic trucks. I won't go through the whole thing, but you can look. And that's an example of things on our capital replacement fund. Like I said, we have 3 9-year ones and 1 6-year one. And we'll kind of go over the 6-year one, but the 6-year one is just for the usually those things don't last 9 years, and it's something that we want to replace all at the same time. For instance, radios. We'll replace all the radios at the same time because it's not one of those things where, well, what kind of radio am I working with today? We want it all to be the same. Our cardiac monitors. When we replace the cardiac monitors, we replace them all at once because we don't want different cardiac monitors out there all at the same time. So and usually we don't keep those things for 9 years. So those are examples of those kind of leases. And we'll kind of go on that on the next slide. This is just more of this. So, these are our cash purchases. I'm sorry. So these are things that just wouldn't make sense. So a body truck, wood chipper, some IT equipment, some software stuff. So this is cash purchases that we did last year and the big ones. And here's our example of our capital replacement plan. So you can see up at the top, you have your every 3 years, kind of tells you what you're going to buy. And I won't go down it, but everything is captured. which is good. One thing that I forgot to go over, which I think is important, is can we go back? I'll tell you when to stop, Stephanie. Go back, go back. Okay, right. Let's see, go back one more. Yes, so on this one, I just wanted to see on, I wanted to point something out on the member fee before the member fee credit. So I always like to tell the story. So when I was in the Marine Corps before I became a firefighter, and I always remember this. We went to the Philippines for a training, and we only were there for 4 or 5 days. I can't remember exactly how much. This was in 2004, so this was a long time ago. And our trainings all got rained out. So before we got back on the boat, we sat there, and in the middle of the night, we shot, I can't remember, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of rounds into nothing, into the blackness. And I remember like, why are we doing this? And they said, and it was the whole, well, if we don't use it, we won't get it next year, right? Typical government spending, which years and years ago, I've seen things like that here. So here, we actually give a member fee credit. So the budget is approved, and you can see I mean, it is down to every single little purchase. And while most of it is open allocations, whatever's left doesn't just get spent, it actually gets sent back to offset the member fee of the next year. And I should have put on that, but that's very important because in the previous UFA administration, I'm talking 16, 17 years ago, that extra money would have been spent on something, to be perfectly honest. But now it's not. It's credited back. They don't just spend the money. And again, most of it's open allocations. But I did want to point that out because I did skip it. All right. Oh, that was it. So that's UFA 101 in a nutshell. At least the governance and the budget portion. You have any questions about that? That's either a good or a bad thing. I don't know.
Well, I'm hip deep in it myself quite often, but I'll just reiterate that we're served extremely well. The arrangement that Holladay has with this organization is extremely beneficial for Holladay, in my view. I appreciate very much. I've come to appreciate very much that capital rotation plan because it really does smooth out those big costs in a way that makes it manageable for municipalities that have a regular cycle of revenue that can't spike the way capital purchases could if we were employing a different methodology. I think it was our previous chief Peterson, was it, that
Yes.
created this capital rotation. That was one of the primary contributions he made among many great contributions. And I couldn't be happier. And so this showed our increase from last year to the current year at 4.11 or 4.12, something like that.
Yep.
We're significantly less than that this coming year coming up. Our call volume went down relative to the total, so I think we're in the 2.11 range. So we got a screaming deal this next budget year coming up too. So anyway, appreciate all you do at UFA. We're proud members and delighted. And but yeah, if there are any questions or comments.
I just have a quick question. You were talking about, I know a lot of times in my neighborhood, because we are a little bit closer to Murray, we see Murray come in. How does that work with the costs and expenses?
Sure. So, well, first I'll say how things are dispatched. So, and I don't know exactly where you live, but so for a heavy apparatus, if it's what is dispatched is so for the funding is that map.
Mhm.
Right? But for how they're dispatched, a heavy apparatus, if it can get there within 4 minutes, then that heavy apparatus will go. So I don't know if you live within approximately 4 minutes of 104. So is it always Murray? Are you on the border?
We're on the border.
So it's probably always Murray for the most part.
Yeah, just noticing what I
Yes.
see in the neighborhood.
Yep. So how it's dispatched is and I'll get back to it, but just because I already started this, is 4 minutes per heavy apparatus. So if a heavy apparatus can get there within 4 minutes in their zone, so it'll go into that 104 weird shaped box, and then it'll GPS it and say, where is medic engine 104? And If medic engine 104 can get there in 4 minutes, it'll dispatch them. And if not, then it goes to what we call AVL, automatic vehicle location, I think is what it is. Basically GPS. It'll send the closest apparatus. And we actually just changed that this year. And I'll kind of just go on to it real quick. Um, it wasn't a UFA thing, but back in the day when people used to build fire stations, they actually used to build the fire stations on the borders of the cities to keep other cities out. And so what was happening is we switched to with the technology, and we used to start dispatching everybody just straight off GPS. Was that places like West Valley were taking a high purport because they built themselves around the border of Taylorsville because that's what they used to do. They were taking a ton of calls into Taylorsville, right, which is not theirs. So the chiefs all got together and they decided to do this proximity dispatching. So now within 104, if 104 can get there within 4 minutes, then they'll do it. And then the ambulance is an 8-minute window. Now, seeing that you're now within 4 minutes, it's going to go GPS. And so you'll get, unless Murray is not in house, say that Murray station is not there, it'll go GPS. It'll send the next closest unit, which who knows who might that be. So, and that becomes a chief to chief thing as far as mutual aid, where they'll talk call volume and, hey, you guys come in more than us, or we come in more than you, and it becomes kind of a negotiation. Now, I can tell you this with Murray, is we have a great relationship with Murray, and I don't think there's, even though they may own a little section of Holladay right there, a typical house fire takes 3 fire engines and 1 ladder truck that is dispatched to 1 house fire. Murray doesn't have that in their whole city, so every house fire UFA is supplementing. So there's a give and take there that is managed by the chiefs, and that's why that is. So if you don't live within 4 minutes, and Murray's a little closer, you'll get them every time right there. And so I know exactly where you live. Probably. I can probably guess. But that's
in that little shoe area close to the
yeah,
shoe.
so it must be 82. If you can see 82, they must be able to get there faster than 104, or maybe just 104 has been out very much. I'm actually interested. I might see where you live. But that's how it works.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I just add to that? I don't know if Chief Burchett is doing this, but I know Chief Peterson had a pretty complicated matrix to make sure that mutual aid penciled out. And I was impressed with how closely the mutual aid really worked, where one community wasn't subsidizing another. People were helping each other, and pretty equally.
Yeah, it's actually pretty amazing how it works out. But yeah, Chief Burchett has pretty much taken everything Chief Peterson's done, and it's just kind of continued it. So I'm sure it's the same thing.
Yeah, I've had that conversation with Chief Burchett, and so UFA feels pretty even, Steven. There are a couple of communities that are a little out of balance, but and so we're kind of deficit with one outside organization, but have an excess with another, and we're kind of worked out in the wash.
Yes.
But there are certain communities to the south who are not, but we're okay.
Yeah. And not only that, Mayor, is that we have a lot of stuff. So like I said, we have the only dedicated wildland division that frankly everybody benefits from. And then we have our own specialty hazardous materials companies and own specialty heavy rescue companies where a lot of smaller departments, they have to dual specialize, right? So there's a lot of things that we have, plus our most smaller departments don't have investigators, bomb or arson, so, and that gets utilized by other smaller departments utilize ours. So there's give and take. It's not just all about call volume as far as the mutual aid type stuff too. Okay.
Sorry, we're not taking public comment on that.
No, sir. Just may we know the date that Fire Chief may join this forum?
Oh, Chief Watkins? Yes, I will make sure that when it is, and again, it's going to be closer to actual fireworks time, but I'll make sure it's on the agenda. Okay, it's on there. But we are happy to meet with you. You have my number. We talked before. I'm happy. We're happy to meet with you, and not in this forum if it's easier for you. All right. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Council.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, but speaking of that, the next item up is discussion of fireworks map.
Yeah, so don't go too far.
Come down.
Yeah.
There's a fireworks map discussion as the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, so we received from Chief Watkins a letter telling us that in accordance with state law, we need to adopt a map by May 1st. Uh, so wanted to have a preliminary conversation with the council tonight, knowing that they need to adopt something next week. The letter really outlines process and not a lot of guidance. It sounds like that may be coming at a later time.
Well, very soon, yes. I thought actually would have come out already, but yeah, I think he might be doing it right now.
Okay.
So will we get that guidance before we need to make this decision?
Well, I can kind of guide it a little bit. Um, I will say, and then Todd, you stop me if I go. Um, what the state has basically kind of said is that it's citizens' rights to use fireworks. So the council you cannot arbitrarily restrict fireworks without certain criteria. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, the state law for several years has identified certain areas where you can restrict the discharge of fireworks, and it talks about areas of dry grasses. It talks about around creek beds, washes like that. It talks about the urban wildland interface. But then it indicates that you need to make sort of a finding that there exist hazardous conditions that have historically existed for at least 2 of the last 5 years to aid you in drawing your line where you would be able to prohibit fireworks. And so I know a few years ago the council had a line along 1300 East in this city that was, for lack of a better term, I guess, kind of relaxed last year. But that had been your line based on sort of the environmental conditions we've had over the last several years, for a few years preceding that. So as we look at that line, we think about the lack of moisture we've had this winter. All those things can weigh into your discussion now, but you will be required to make a specific finding that there's a hazardous area that's existed for at least 2 of the last 5 years. And there is specific statutory language that identifies areas of dry grass, brush, cover, the urban wildland interface, or those natural creek ways, essentially.
Todd, can the fact that we used that line within the last 5 years for a couple of them be part of the finding that would indicate? Because if we're looking at just this year, that's what you're saying is insufficient. But if we're saying like within the last 5 years, that 13th East.
It's good evidence of the fact that you made a finding to that effect in the last 5 years.
Okay.
And it certainly, if we go back 3 years, 4 years, it certainly wouldn't be hard to justify those lines.
I will say, so I think it's 2 years ago, Gina, that we expanded it. Was it two? So we've had 2 years of the non-300, 1300 East. So I will say, and I'm not saying going for one way or another, but there hasn't been an increase in fireworks related incidents in those 2 years. Just, I mean, on the days of legal discharge, there's always the illegal discharge ones, and that's has nothing to do with this. But on the days of legal discharge, from the expanding of the times, there hasn't been an increase. Another tool that you may have is a red. Do we have the opportunity to pull a map up, Stephanie? Can we, so they can see it? Is like Todd said, you can look at conditions, hazardous conditions, or historical fires, which you don't have in the 2 of the 5 years. But you also have a readily accessible line, so something that's easy to enforce, where it's not all over the place. Where, well, over here I can't tell, or I can't. I'm in the boundaries over here. I don't know. So that's another way to delineate where you can discharge fireworks, is something that's easily recognizable and enforceable. Is this the UFA? Is this the last year's? Is this the whole thing or just Holladay? I was going to say, if you saw Cottonwood Heights, they have, well, it's so confusing, and they've had problems that they're actually gonna have to redo theirs a little bit this year, just because it's so hard to enforce. They just have pockets where you can and you can't, and things like that. So that would be another thing, but um, it's not a like it's not. I don't like fireworks, so we don't want them. It's that's not something that you can do.
Well, I think we did create some precedent. They were primarily based on environmental conditions, um, and uh, and then those environmental conditions eased the last couple of years, and so then we applied that same precedent given the eased environmental conditions. It would appear to me we haven't had the data yet, although I do read the newspaper. So it seems to me that those environmental conditions perhaps have changed again. But I'd still just want to essentially apply the precedent that the council, or at least have an opportunity to review that precedent and have an opportunity to reapply that precedent given current environmentals to help us make that decision.
I would agree with you, Mayor, that's kind of how I've been looking at this going to. I was hoping that we would get more specific data as far as like fuel load and those kind of things. Um, and with the terrible snow year that we've had this year, so I don't know if that's
Well,
coming or.
so I will say, so the fuel moisture
Mm-hmm.
that you can't predict that because that could happen. We could have a lot of rain from now until then. So you can't predict that as far as the fuel moisture levels, which is a big thing, right? So that's one thing that when I said that Chief Watkins would come in, that was kind of where I was going to say where say we had really dry. Say you adopted a map of whatever. The council, and correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, that under extreme conditions you can change it under so whatever you is your map. If there's extreme weather conditions that have persisted, you can restrict at that time. So you're not locked in.
Yeah, but like I said, we've established kind of a set of parameters from a couple of years ago. I'd like to re-review those, and assuming we can get the similar related data that we used in those previous years when we've made these decisions to both restrict completely, like we did 3 to 4 years ago, and then those eased because conditions changed. Well, if conditions have changed back or not, we'll just evaluate those parameters and stick with our precedent unless there's reason to change the precedent.
So Councilmember Gray, I think the answer to the question, that data is not there yet.
Not available. Okay.
We expect we'll have it by the time we're required to make that decision.
Well, not the data I was talking about with Chief Watkins was going to be more of the fuel moisture load, and it might have been, a couple weeks before the 4th of July or something like that. I was kind of alluding toward the more of the emergency. We have drought conditions. We can't have fireworks, period, type of thing because of the fuel moisture levels. That was more of the data that I was talking about.
Yeah. Whatever data we used, because the timeline for us hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
And so we had data that we had at the time we made the decision in those previous years, and we just need to have the similar data that we have at the time of year we need to make the decision.
I feel like we had more data than the like.
Seemed like.
Yeah,
so if we can.
Yeah, I remember last year we had a wet spring, and then as soon as we voted to allow fireworks in parts of the city, the rain stopped.
Yes.
And by the time the 4th of
Yes.
July came around, it was dry as dry. And actually, I was really nervous, and I talked to former Mayor Daly and said, hey, I think we ought to look at restricting fireworks for the 24th, and couldn't get enough people to back me on it. But I guess I say this because I'm nervous. Not only the dryness that we've had so far, but also the fact that our water situation is so dire. I would be really mad at somebody who started a fire with fireworks and see all those millions of gallons being used to fight it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, let's try to get that relevant data and
For
so we can
sure.
make the
I can,
decision.
for council meeting next week.
Yeah. Is there additional information that the council is interested in looking at?
Well, I don't recall the specific data sources and data elements, but those should be, I guess, in the minutes from those years of what those parameters were we used to make those decisions. I mean, I'm sure one of them is going to be snowpack,
Yeah,
and
I remember that was one,
yeah,
but I think we all know that
and
that's
just basic
zero. I mean, not, but
basic drought. I think it was just basic drought measurements. You
yeah.
know,
Oh, I think one was like, what are we? Is like our city in like what drought condition is the city of Holiday in at that time? I think that was another one.
and that was kind of all state fire marshal stuff, as I recall.
Yeah.
And this is
Okay.
something we have to vote on next week.
We do, and that is state law. I guess, Captain Brown, I had assumed that perhaps Chief Watkins was more reticent to offer guidance than, say, a previous fire marshal. Um,
Yeah, I will make sure that there be. I'm gonna speak to him tonight.
okay.
So
Do we, I'm assuming other municipalities are obviously on the same timeline as we are. Are any further along in the process of
So-
making their decisions about what they've done?
So I will say this. I know that Cottonwood Heights is minus a couple of the pockets, mainly because of enforcement, because they have little pockets all over the place, is going to be pretty much the same, and Mill Creek is going to be the same as well.
The same as they were last.
That's the feeling of the liaisons. They haven't voted on it, but that was the feeling that they were going to get. They were.
Of course, Mill Creek is banned, right?
Yeah.
And
They,
that
they have, it's way more
definitely
strict than Holiday.
increased.
It's more strict than Holiday. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I thought Cottonwood Heights was more strict than Holiday too.
No,
they're
Cottonwood,
not.
No, they're not.
Cottonwood Heights has a lot of
They've
open
got a
areas.
checkerboard of
Yeah.
goofiness.
Okay.
So the fact that Mill Creek can ban fireworks on the east end of the city, which is basically as far east as the entire city of Holiday is, if I'm remembering what you explained to me before, it's because they never retreated, they never allowed
Yes.
fireworks, they just
They would just
continued their ban.
continued it.
And so
Continued the ban.
because of that, they can continue it.
Yes.
They don't have to justify walking back. Is that right?
I don't think that's right.
Oh,
You
my
don't think
apologies.
that's right?
No, the same conditions in the statute have to be a specific finding by a council, and you may look to your past practice to say we had these kind of conditions and this is where we drew the line, but your past line has nothing to do with satisfying the statutory
Okay, good to
criteria.
know. Thank you.
So we have a free hand to make whatever decision we feel best. I just happen to think looking to precedent helps
I think
us
it
with
is.
that.
Well, and I like the idea, and I said this when we were making the decisions in the past. I think government can be nimble in so few things, but I think this is one where we can be more nimble in on years where there's a lot of water. I think we can use restrictions, and then years where we're looking at more drought conditions. I think I like the idea of being nimble and approaching it that way.
Okay.
Make sure I'm talking.
Any other comments?
So the only thing I would highlight for the council, if you, and Stephanie, if you could pull up our 25 map, there was an area that was included as a permissible area for fireworks last year, that you may want to revisit if you stay with a map that looks something like this, and that is the Park and Ride, Mill Rock, and Old Mill Golf
Oh, yes.
Course. Um,
I'm just going to
That
say
might
right
be-
now, yes, that needs to be revisited.
Is that because of activity we saw there?
Yes. Yeah, I'd like to just advocate right now that we don't allow that, regardless of other decisions that we make.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else on that agenda item? Okay, let's go to the business license fee discussion.
Okay. So included in your packet is the answers to some questions that you posed. The last time we had Fred Philpott with us to talk about the business license fee study. I wanted to just spend a little bit of time going through that information and some past conversations because this has taken some time. Just to remind you of where we are, and that's what Stephanie's bringing up right now. So just starting at the very beginning, 2 years ago, the prior council authorized us to take a look at our business license fees to determine costs associated with providing services to our business community. The fees that we charge for those businesses can either supplement other general fund dollars or they can completely cover those costs, and that's up to you. The study found that the cost of us providing services to businesses is about $1 million, $941,000. And we've been collecting over the last 5 years, I think our average is right around $290,000 from business license fees. So the general fund is making up, other tax sources are making up the rest of how we cover those costs. The other thing that the business license fee study found is that some business types have a disproportionate impact on that total cost. So not everybody's the same in what they cost the city to be a business here. So if we could go to the next slide. Here's the guidance that we think we've heard from the council to date. We think you've said that business license fees should supplement other general fund dollars and that fees don't need to cover 100% of the cost of providing services to our business community. I think we've heard that loud and clear. We've also heard that business types that have a disproportionate impact should pay a disproportionate fee, but we've also heard that businesses don't need to cover 100% of that disproportionate impact. The guidance that we've had to date has varied between 25 and 40%, depending on those business groupings, and we'll look at those in just a second. I wanted to highlight what I think the answers to that are in your packet mean for some business groups. Many business groups will pay less under the new proposed structure. So 85% of our business licenses that we issue are renewals in our community. And that means that most businesses are going to pay less with the new structure. Some businesses, and hang on just a second, I have a list of those groups. So our most common business grouping, which is the business professional and contracted services, the new cost of a business license will increase, but most will pay less. Restaurants, both with and without liquor, will pay less for both a renewal and a new license. We do have a few businesses that are going to see an increase, and that includes banks, convenience stores, grocery stores, pharmacies, regulated home occupations, things that have to go, businesses that have to go through our conditional use process, on and off premise beer retailers and hotels. All of those groups are going to see an increase. This new fund fee structure that we've been talking about is projected to generate approximately $70,000 in additional revenue. However, that includes a lot of your conversations have focused on what do we do about assisted living and nursing facilities. So if the disproportionate impact for nursing, residential, and personal care remains at 40%, that would equal that $70,000 in additional revenue. If you, however, wanted to take that to 25%, the way you have it for some other categories, it would basically be revenue neutral. So the next slide looks at where we had ended up on disproportionate fees by groupings, and that included an adjustment to 40% of the disproportionate for some and had reduced to 25% for those that you had categorized as generating economic benefits for the city, economic development related groupings like convenience stores and gas stations, grocery stores, hotels, pharmacies, and drugstores, and then 40% for a few other categories. So, next slide. This evening, I think we're really looking for direction on assisted living and nursing homes. Where you end up with them, also included in your packet, is the answer to your question about adjacent communities and what they're charging. So we're looking for direction. Is the council comfortable with us starting to do some outreach regarding these potential new fees, knowing that you won't adopt them until you adopt the budget in June?
And by outreach, tell me what exactly that looks like.
So it could look a variety of different ways. I think we would use the Business Advisory Board to start some of those conversations with business groups, and then probably some direct outreach to groups that like assisted living and nursing homes that might see some larger impacts, just to get their feedback.
Would that be done through like surveys or direct contact? Or?
I'm anticipating that a lot of it would be, traditional kind of public engagement, flyers, that sort of thing, with an opportunity then to have conversations.
So in my view, the only one that's really outstanding in my mind again is the assisted living, and so I kind of wanted to hit the details of those in terms of what we're charging now, and then what the proposed. We're looking at if we're talking 40%, then the real element is the cost per unit. So at 40%, we're saying that's $300 a bed essentially.
Right.
And how does that compare with what we're charging now? And then I'd want to look at equivalents for our surrounding neighboring communities, because it seemed to me when I did a little bit of my own research, which was not very deep, that was going to be significantly higher than neighboring communities.
So currently our base for a nursing, residential, and personal care is a $200 base and $44 per resident. The proposal would take that to a $330 base plus $299.60 per bed. So because we're going from a resident to a bed, it's hard to make a perfect apples to apples comparison. The last sheet called Assisted Living Comparisons also looks at what we would be proposing versus where other cities are. And our base would be higher, and at 40%, the disproportionate amount would be higher as well.
I thought we were talking about doing it at 25%.
So if we take it where we had left the conversation was at 40, if we take it to 25, I had done this math somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. I think it would take it from 299 to 187.
And even that's still higher than everybody else.
Yeah, we'd still be on top.
It is, but our costs are higher than everyone else.
Our costs relative to our neighbors?
So looking at the disproportionate impacts That's what so South Jordan's could be as high as 901. So they went to 5%. Our costs are higher than Linden's. Murray charges a disproportionate fee only to group homes. Midvale does not charge a disproportionate fee for assisted living. And Mill Creek is limited. It's $145 per bed with a $10 disproportionate fee.
Why are our costs so much higher?
That would be another study, whether it is just the number of beds we have, whether it is the practices within our homes. That would be hard to say.
Well, could it be that Mill Creek and Cottonwood Heights haven't reevaluated?
It absolutely could.
Yeah.
Okay.
It absolutely could.
Because that would make more sense to me. That
Yeah, and Cottonwood Heights is about to go through this same process. I understand it, but they haven't done it quite yet. So yeah, certainly if we're talking 40 versus 25, I think it's pretty easy to knock down to 25 and not feel too bad about it because we're still on the high end of the market.
Yeah. And then that would make, in terms of our overall budget, it would make it revenue neutral.
Revenue neutral because the other, even though we're getting significant more revenue from this group, we're losing revenue in the other ones, like for the renewal process.
Exactly.
Right.
Are these fees? Is this the renewal fee or is this the new fee?
So
the disproportionate fee is regardless, right?
It is, but because the base will go down, many businesses will see a reduction. So the fee comparison sheet will give you an example of that. Let's just take automotive.
No, I remember looking at that. I wanted to compare the specific with the nursing homes.
So that is about a third of the way down the page. And that is the $200 base plus $44 per resident versus the $330 base plus $299. For a renewal, though, that base goes to $87 plus $299.
But that's the $299 at the 40%.
Right. So it would be 87 plus, let's say, 187 for the disproportionate.
Okay. But I'm thinking I'm getting more comfortable with that 25% number, even though it's a higher end of the market, just in terms of the total cost per month for rental for those.
I really wonder if Mill Creek and Cottonwood Heights would do this, if we would be more in the middle or like more comparable to the market than what it looks like currently.
It's hard to predict, but just in terms of we're starting to approach the higher end of the market as opposed to being double the market at $299.
Yeah, that's too.
I'm okay being at the higher end of the market because they were providing a lot of UFA services to those folks. But then you talk about if you break down that annual cost per bed by month compared to the monthly rental, it becomes a smaller percentage of the total, and it just feels more digestible.
Yeah, I think I'm where you are.
I'm seeing nods. Is everyone comfortable with that, at least as a starting place for conversations? I think for most of our business community, this will be received really well because it will mean a reduction for most businesses.
Right. And an equalization and a acceptance of more responsibility for their type of business when they are accruing more costs to us.
Yeah, and I think you can make a case for, especially for nursing homes where they are using our services very regularly.
Yeah. I'm also okay with the level of subsidy we're making because they are they're a business, but they're also a replacement for a residence.
Yeah.
And they do get the residential exemption in terms of the property tax side. So that I think we do have some justification for providing some subsidy there.
Yeah.
But we've been perhaps over subsidizing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Are we going to run into any problems? I know we talked about before that we have to, if we pull nursing homes out of the generating income discount, are we going to run into problems on that end?
In terms of our overall revenue or just from a fairness
From a
standpoint?
fairness standpoint.
I mean, I think we can. I think some of the points that the mayor just made will be sufficient. We'll need to look at that, but at first blush, I feel comfortable with that. Okay.
I feel like it's really truly a legislative decision. That's a judgment call of the legislative body, as long as it's it's got some rationale to it.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the direction. Thank you. And we'll incorporate this into the tentative budget, and I'm sure it won't be the last time we talk about it.
Gina, thank you, and for everyone. I mean, I know we contracted out with Fred for a lot of this work, but it's been a lot of work. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll proceed to retreat goals.
Yes. So in your packet is a summary of what where I think we landed on our goals for the upcoming year. I just wanted you to take a look at them and make sure that I got them all correct. Because as you'll remember from the retreat, this was at the end of the night, and handwriting got a lot less clear, and we didn't have a chance to go over them before we adjourned. So our first priority remains that we are a safe community. We prioritized regular, predictable emergency response training, as well as replacing our soon to be leaving us emergency management coordinator. We talked about a couple of sidewalk fill-in projects. Working with UPD to make sure that children in particular are aware of the new state law and restrictions around e-bikes and e-motorcycles and the whole variety of toys that are available and that we sometimes see on our roads. We talked about opportunities for fire hydrant maintenance and then working to continue addressing perceived speeding problems. Anything else in that area? Okay. Priority 2, excellent public assets and infrastructure. Executing our plan for City Hall, begin working on Spring Lane or the park to be named later. Maintaining parks at a high level, developing more beautification spots around the city, continuing to explore opportunities for park restrooms off season, exploring funding for active transportation and trails priorities, and explore plans for additional trails. Anything else there? Okay. Third priority, responsive, efficient, and sustainable city government. Explore additional communications channels. And we're going to talk about an opportunity there next week. We wanted to share communications metrics, highlight our website, engage at the state and local level, explore a state of the city or town halls, and foster outreach and education on housing. Okay. Priority 4, responsible development that enhances community, expand opportunities for commercial nodes, exploring CDAs where appropriate, clarify policy to support affordable housing, help businesses identify grant opportunities, support local mom and pop businesses, and explore opportunities for targeted commercial development. And priority 5, a great place to live. Explore opportunities for us to participate or for our residents to get Olympic fever, some sort of link to Holladay. Explore community theater options. Activate the village center. Explore taking events to neighborhoods. Continue with the village lighting. Explore a mural fest or some additional public art, and both long-term and short-term things like yarn bombing, and bring back the fun run.
I'm not familiar with the fun run. I mean, I'm fine bringing something back. What was it?
So, and this also predates me. I believe this is still on the list from Council Member Brewer, who is an advocate of the fun run. I think it was kind of a short run associated with the 4th of July.
Okay.
I'm not seeing as much consensus on this one.
I don't know. I'm not a runner, but lots of people are. So I think it'd be a fun community event. So I'd support it.
Should we leave it on and see what happens?
Yeah.
Take a look at it. We make
All right.
Ty in charge of it. He just volunteered to be community
All right.
leader.
Liaison.
In charge.
Well, if this is the right list of priorities. So if you take a look at this and have anything more specific to add to any of these categories, anything that I didn't capture from our conversation a few months ago, please let me know.
Oh, I thought that retreat meeting really went fantastically.
Yep.
And we had a lot of great engagement, and I felt really good about how that went.
Great.
So.
Great. All right, great. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, let's proceed then to item E regarding communication options. Oh, okay, so we're not doing that one. That's next week. Okay, so then just to finish up, then we have a council meeting next week, and then the first 3 weeks in May, which will be very budget focused, I expect. We closed session or no? Well then, that only leaves one thing.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.